Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You know how sometimes when we are, watching something, there'll be a statutory warning saying, watch it at your own risk. This purport is something, this verse is something like that. It's a very strong verse where Srila Prabhupada and Srila Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura is actually shaking us because we are very materially satisfied and we have become very spiritually complacent. So they are actually shaking us. So it's quite strong verse. It is uh, the words used, the analogies that are used are pretty strong as well. So hear it at your own risk. So let's start by reading the verse. Jivanchavo bhagavantāṅ na jātu martyo abhilabhetayastu Shri Vishnupadya manujastulasya Svashanchavo yastu naveda gandham. Synonyms. Jivan, while living. Shava, a dead body. Bhagavatangri renum, the dust of the feet of a pure devotee. Na, never. Jatu, at any time. Martya, mortal. Abhilabhet, particularly received. Ya, a person. Tu, but. Shri, with opulence. Vishnu Padya, of the lotus feet of Vishnu. Manuja, a descendant of Manu, a man. Tulasya, leaves of the Tulsi tree. Shwasan, while breathing. Shava, still a dead body. Ya, who. Tu, but. Naveda, never experienced. Gandham, the aroma. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. The person who has not received the dust of the feet of the Lord's pure devotee upon his head is certainly a dead body. And the person who has never experienced the aroma of the Tulsi leaf from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing. Purport. Would anybody like to read the purport?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, I can read.
Yes, thank you so much. Just read the first paragraph. Thank you.
Okay, Mataji. According to Srila Viśvanātha Chakravartī Ṭhākura, the breathing dead body is a ghost. When a man dies, he is called dead. But when he again appears in a subtle form not visible to our present vision, and yet acts, such a dead body is called a ghost. Ghosts are always very bad elements, always creating a fearful situation for others. Similarly, the ghost-like non-devotees, who have no respect for the pure devotees, nor for the Vishnu deity in the temples, create a fearful situation for the devotees at all times. The Lord never accepts any offering by such impure ghosts. There is a common saying that one should first love the dog of the beloved before one shows any loving sentiments for the beloved. The stage of pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving a pure devotee of the Lord. The first condition of devotional service to the Lord is therefore to be a servant of a pure devotee. And this condition is fulfilled by the statement, reception of the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who has also served another pure devotee. That is the way of pure disciplic succession or devotional parampara.
Thank you so much. So we can say we are discussing the topics of pure devotional service, and that's why pure devotees, obviously, they come into picture. So ordinarily, we might think that a person who's breathing is alive and not breathing is dead. But even if we technically look at modern science, right, a person can breathe with machines, a heart can beat artificially. In fact, even the lungs can be functioned mechanically. Yet, if the brain activity is absent, the person is declared brain death, right? It's called brain death. It's brain dead. So, medically as well, breathing alone does not define life, right? but consciousness, the awareness that defines life. So science already agrees that life is more than breathing. When I read this purport, I was just thinking Bhagavatam is so amazing. Where does science stop? Science stops at the point where it says that consciousness arises from brain. That's where science stops. But Bhagavatam takes us a step further. It says, who is the one who is experiencing this consciousness? Who is the conscious experiencer? And it says, consciousness belongs to the soul, breathing belongs to the body. So Bhagavatam actually takes us a step further in science to say that consciousness belongs to the soul and breathing belongs to the body. Right? Let's take the example of the Western hippies before they met Srila Prabhupada. Some of them were highly educated, they had successful careers, they were making a lot of money, so they were very comfortable financially. They were constantly connected to different people. They had everything, right? Good families, but there was something still missing for them. So externally, we can see these people, these hippies, they were breathing, they were functioning, they were consuming whatever they were consuming. But yet internally, they had anxiety, they had dissatisfaction, they had fear, and most importantly, they had feeling of emptiness. Despite achieving a lot of things, they were experiencing emptiness. So what does Bhagavatam say? So these are hippies before meeting Srila Prabhupada. So Bhagavatam says, if the devotion is present, then you are alive. If the devotion is absent, then you are dead. And a person who is not spiritually charged up, or who is not on the path of spirituality, is declared dead, according to this verse. Let's take a more current example, like Jim Carrey. Right? He's a world famous actor, as we are aware, extremely wealthy, has won many, many awards. Materially, if we look at him, he's successful in every material standard. No one can pinpoint at anything. Yet, what did he publicly say? He said, I think everybody should get rich and famous. Everybody should get rich and famous and do everything that ever dreamt of, so that they can see that it's not the answer. This is what he said publicly. He also said that there is terrible emptiness when you reach the top. Again, he was experiencing emptiness. So if we look at, if we use Bhagavatam to dissect his case a little bit, so he is alive biologically, right? He is materially very, very successful, but because he is spiritually not on the path which he should be on, he is feeling the emptiness. He's feeling the loneliness. So this purport is telling us a living body without any spiritual connection is a dead body walking. So again, when Jim Carrey agrees that it's not an insult. In fact, he's being very insightful and he's giving the world a new direction. So the purpose of life is to revive our forgotten relationship with Krishna. And this is something we must always remember, that that is the purpose of life. That is the ultimate goal, to revive our relationship. And to attain those goals, we take many, many little steps day in and out. Right? So externally, we might also be eating, sleeping, working, doing different things. But if there is no spiritual connection, then we are dead bodies who are walking. Right? Two things that have been mentioned in this purport over here is the dust of the feet of a pure devotee. Secondly, the aroma of Tulsi from the lotus feet of the Lord. So if we look at both of these things, right, dust of the feet of a pure devotee, what does that talk about? Taking association of pure devotee. And when you meet a pure devotee, he's going to give association, he's also going to give us service. So it talks about association and service. And then it talks about the aroma of the tulsi from the lotus feet of the Lord. What does that talk about? If we are looking at the lotus feet of the Lord, we are talking about surrender. We're talking about our entire submission. Because without these things, association, um, submission, or service, our spiritual life is uh, is empty. It is not. It is not fulfilled. Right? Bhagavatam says, Swavid vara hostra kare samsuta purusha pashu. A person who does not hear about the Lord is praised by. So again, a person who does not hear about the Lord is praised by dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. So I really love how Bhagavatam is so bold and it states things as it is. Without devotion, you are a dead person. Once a gentleman asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, I want to see God. Prabhupada, what did he say? He said, God is not an order supplier. First become qualified. So the man came back and he said, but God is everywhere, isn't it? And then Prabhupada said, but do you have the eyes to see him? And that was the conclusion, right? Do you have the eyes to see him? To be able to have the eyes to see him, we cannot see him directly. We have to see him through the eyes of his pure devotee. Krishna only reveals himself through his devotee, never directly, because Krishna belongs to his devotee. Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna is the property of his pure devotees. Right? What did Bhagavatam say? Aham bhakta paradhino. I'm completely under the control of my devotees. This is what Krishna says. And Srila Viśvanātha Chakravartī Ṭhākura here explains in the purport that a dead body who acts without real consciousness is a ghost. So Srila Viśvanātha Thakur, actually goes a step further. Not just a dead body, you are a ghost. Such existence is, he says, is inauspicious. A ghost is never auspicious, it's inauspicious. Why? Because it is disconnected from the proper dharma, right? So if we look at this, it is the absence of a spiritual identity that makes the person a ghost. In Madhurya Kadambini, I've discussed this in the past as well. Viśvanātha Chakravartī Thakur discusses various stages of bhakti, and he also discusses various anarthas. So he states that a person who is without bhakti, who does not have bhakti, has not taken up devotional service, firstly, do not understand that we are not the body but the soul. He is 100% of the time under the influence of false ego, not true ego. And there is extreme fearfulness, extreme attachment to family, friends, and other worldly affairs. And he will be completely staying away from spirituality. That is a person without any bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada said, this is what Srila Prabhupada says, that this is what even a ghost experiences. He is not the body but the soul. He's just going here and there. He's completely under the influence of false ego. He's experiencing fear and he has nowhere else to go. So a person without bhakti, if we look at it, if we compare it, it's directly relating to the ghost. Srila Prabhupada has actually experienced ghost in his real life as well. While he was in Lucknow, he was in a house that he got for really cheap rent. And upon asking, he was told that it is because there are ghosts that are living in this house. What did Srila Prabhupada say? Srila Prabhupada took the house. He said, chant and the ghost will go away. And Srila Prabhupada said that the ghostly position is actually very painful. If you look at it, the ghost has a subtle body. He has intelligence, he has mind, he has ego, but he does not have the gross body. So that ghost wants to enjoy the material life. But because he doesn't have a gross material body, he can only create disturbances around. Because he still wants to be materially satisfied, right? So we can look, when we hear this description, we understand that actually when a person does not take the path of spirituality, he is actually a dead body, he's in fact a ghost, because though there is a gross body, but we are only creating disturbances for material satisfaction. So Srila Viśvanātha Thakur, Chakravartī Thakur is only emphasizing to the fact that bhakti, life without bhakti is very unnatural. Right? Naturally, we have to be in bhakti. Life without bhakti is very unhealthy. And life without bhakti is very incomplete, just like a ghostly existence. Right. So let's continue reading further. Nilima Mataji, would you like to continue with the second paragraph, please?
Yes, Mother. Maharaja Rahūgaṇa inquired from the great saint Jaḍa Bharata as to how he had attained such a liberated stage of a paramahaṁsa. And in the answer, the great saint replied as follows from Bhāgavatam 5:12-12. Rahūgaṇeta tapasa nayati न चेजया निर्वपनाद् विहाद्वा न छन्दसा नैव जलाग्निसूर्ये विना महत्पादरजोऽभिषेकम्. O King Rahūgaṇa, the perfectional stage of devotional service, or the paramahaṁsa stage of life, cannot be attained unless one is blessed by the dust of the feet of great devotees. It is never attained by tapasya, austerity, the Vedic worshipping process, acceptance of the renowned order of life, the discharge of the duties of household life, the chanting of the Vedic hymns, or the performance of penances in the hot sun, within cold water, or before the blazing fire.
Thank you. So we can see, of course, we've heard Maharaj Rahūgaṇa's pastime in short in the past as well, a long time back. So I thought I'll just refresh that one. So Maharaj Rahūgaṇa is a Kshatriya king, and Jad Bharat, we've heard him a lot of times that he's one of the most extraordinary personalities of Bhagavatam. So it is the same soul as Bharat Maharaj, and he was son of Lord Rishabdev. So Jad Bharat was first born as a great king, then as a deer, and then as a Brahmana. He was called Jad, which is with the meaning of which is dull, because he pretended to be ignorant. Right? He pretended to be ignorant because he didn't want to waste his time in other worldly matters. So he acted deaf, he acted dumb, he was acting mentally very slow. But internally, he was fully conscious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, so because he remembered everything from his past life, he had decided that never again he would fall into any sort of illusion. He wanted to avoid the society, the people completely. Right? So he behaved like a fool around in front of other people. Now, when Maharaj Rahūgaṇa was traveling in a palanquin, one of his carriers became extremely ill. So, because a replacement was needed, Jad Bharat was forcibly engaged. Right, he was found there on the pathway, and he was engaged. Now, Jad Bharat, as he was walking, he was extremely careful not to step on any ants, insects, and because he was, jumping around here and there, he walked very. The palanquin started shaking. So the king became extremely angry, and he said, "You are lazy. You're tired. Do you think you're carrying a burden? I'm the king." So we can see Raghuvan was identifying himself as the body. He had false ego. Now, until this point, Jad Bharat was extremely quiet. But when Jad Bharat realized that there are a lot of Vaishnava aparadhs, when he's speaking, there's a lot of aparadh being taking place. What did he do? He decided to enlighten the king. And he started explaining the king about the difference between body and soul. And he started explaining him different concepts of spirituality. Now, when Rahūgaṇa started hearing this, he immediately realized that this Jad Bharat is not an ordinary man, he's a great saint. So he immediately offered his obeisances, he apologized, and he accepted Jad Bharat as his guru. So we can see how King Rahūgaṇa came in contact with the pure devotee. So the king accepted his so-called servant as a guru, and then he asked before in this particular purport we are discussing text 12, but in text 1, the most famous question was asked: how can one attain the liberated stage of Paramhams? To which Jad Bharat is actually replying to what Nilima Mataji just read. But it is said, one of the replies said, Veena Mahat Pad Rajo Bhikshem, which means without bathing in the dust of the feet of great devotees, liberation is impossible. It is, they're not saying it is difficult, they're saying liberation is impossible. So that is the importance of bathing in the dust of the feet of pure devotees. Who's a pure devotee? Everyone other than us is a pure devotee. If that is hard to accept because our false ego is high, and that's hard to accept that everyone other than us is a pure devotee, let's start with at a point where we understand that Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee, and when we are reading this Bhagavatam, we are in direct association of Srila Prabhupada. Right? Let's pay obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, and when we pay those obeisances, let's accept the dust of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes saying at the dust of your lotus feet becomes quite a lingo when we are in ISKCON, especially when we are doing our offerings, homages. But when we say that, we must mean that. Because Srila Prabhupada is no ordinary personality. Right? So we have to accept Srila Prabhupada as a pure devotee. We must accept the dust of his lotus feet. And when we are reading these purports, we are in direct association with Srila Prabhupada. Right? Let's continue reading further. Nilima Mataji, would you like to continue reading further, please?
Yes, Mataji. In other words, Lord Shri Krishna is the property of his pure and unconditional devotees, and as such, only the devotees can deliver Krishna to other devotees. Krishna is never obtainable directly. Lord Chaitanya therefore designated himself as Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur Das Das Anudasaha, or the most obedient servant of the servants of the Lord, who maintains the Gopi damsels at Vrindavan. A pure devotee therefore never approaches the Lord directly, but tries to please the servant of the Lord's servants, and thus the Lord becomes pleased, and only then can the devotee relish the taste of the Tulsi leaves stuck to his lotus feet. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord is never to be found by becoming a great scholar of the Vedic literatures, but he is very easily approachable through his pure devotee. In Vrindavan, all the pure devotees pray for the mercy of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Srimati Radharani is a tender-hearted female counterpart of the Supreme Whole, resembling the perfectional stage of the worldly feminine nature. Therefore, the mercy of Radharani is available very readily to the sincere devotees. And once she recommends such a devotee to Lord Krishna, the Lord at once accepts the devotee's admittance into his association. The conclusion is, therefore, that one should be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. And by once doing so, by the goodwill of the devotee, the natural attraction for the service of the Lord will be revived. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So we can see this purport, every sentence is a quote in itself, very strong statements. So many shastric evidences has been given in this paragraph. It starts by giving, the first one is Brahma Samhita, and then it goes on to talk about Srimati Radharani. It is said, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhava Vittabhis, which means Radharani, Srimati Radharani is the very essence of Krishna's pleasure potency. Srimati Radharani is not just a devotee, right? She is Ladini Shakti. She is Bhakti personified. She is topmost. So when one approaches Srimati Radharani, one is approaching Srimati Radharani's mercy, which is, as the purport says, very readily available. Right? Because what is the difference between Krishna and Radha? Why not approach Krishna directly and why Radha? So Radharani, Krishna can actually judge someone from the standpoint of justice, right or wrong. He's done right or wrong. But Srimati Radharani judges from the point of view of compassion. Right? Srila Prabhupada often said, if you approach Krishna directly, he may find faults. But if Radharani recommends you, then Krishna cannot refuse. Then Krishna cannot refuse. That's why this, this verse is all about not approaching Krishna directly. Right? As Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we approach Krishna through Nityananda. Right? We always approach them because Nityananda's mercy, of course, we have spoken about it many, many times, Jagai and Madhai, available for anyone and everyone. It doesn't care which background you're coming from. In fact, when we chant Mahamantra every day, it says the Hara in the Mahamantra, Hare, refers to Srimati Radharani as well. So we can see that every mantra that we are chanting, we are remembering Srimati Radharani and we are approaching Krishna through her because we are begging for mercy, we are begging for service. I often, think about this, that in Brisbane, in a place like Brisbane, where the yatra is only growing, it is not at a mature stage as yet, it is at a growth stage, which means each one of us gets services very easily, very readily we get services. And sometimes we don't realize that the importance of these services. Had we been Vrindavan or Manor or any other place, we won't receive the services that we are doing right now. There is always a fight because there's so many seniors who are doing these services. So we are very fortunate that we are in this place where the yatra is growing and we get to do so many services. And when we do services, we attract a lot of mercy. Right? Through service, we attract mercy. Through pure devotees, we get service. So we are nothing and we cannot approach Krishna on our own strength or intelligence or austerities. Right? Krishna is only approached through mercies. Right? That is the key. The first instruction that Srila Prabhupada received from his spiritual master in 1922 was, you are educated, you should preach Lord Chaitanya's message in English. That's it. That's the only instruction he received. From that day, Srila Prabhupada accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his spiritual master. He did not argue, he did not speculate, he accepted, Srila Prabhupada accepted and served. Srila Prabhupada once said, I am what I am today because I never changed a word of my Guru Maharaj. He accepted every word that came from his Guru. That is why Krishna could empower him, because Srila Prabhupada did not approach Krishna directly. Krishna reveals himself to one who is engaged in service. Sevan mukhehi jivado. Right? Prabhupada did not try to see Krishna. He served and Krishna revealed himself. So this purport also talks about Tulsi Maharani. Right? So I just wanted to take an opportunity to also highlight the importance of Tulsi. It is said in Srīmad Bhāgavatam in Canto 3 that although flowering plants like Mandara, Kunda, Kurabaka, Utpal, Champak, the many flowers who have been mentioned here, they are full of transcendental fragrance. They are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi, for Tulsi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. So Srimati Tulsi, Shri Maharani, they are very important personality in our lives. It is said when the breeze carrying the aroma of Tulsi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of the personality of God had entered the nostrils of those sages. Which sages? The four Kumaras. They experienced a change both in body and in mind. Because we must understand smell is one of the subtle sense, right? And it penetrates directly into our consciousness. So this Tulsi service is not ordinary. It is an eternal service of Tulsi Maharani. Right? So that's why we have to pay special importance to Tulsi, how we maintain Tulsi in our own house, offer Tulsi to to the deities that we have in our house, and we must pay special attention there as well. Right? So in conclusion, once a disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, Krishna must be very pleased with you. What did Srila Prabhupada say? Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna is pleased because my Guru Maharaj is pleased. So he never took any credit. He dedicated everything to his Guru Maharaj. Right? Srila Prabhupada did not ask anyone to become a devotee. He did not force anyone to become a devotee. All he said to anybody and everybody was chant and take prasadam. Chant and take prasadam. And because of chanting and taking up prasadam, people gave up their bad habits. They started serving day and night. Why? As the last sentence says, because bhakti is a natural state to the soul. Right? Bhakti is natural. It is not imposed. It comes from within. Right? How is it possible that these Western boys followed so many rules? Srila Prabhupada said, because they have been chanting sincerely and everything comes automatically. So there is discipline, there is detachment, and there is taste for service. Everything happened because these words came from the mouth of a pure devotee, and these people were ready to do anything and everything for Srila Prabhupada. So it's 7 o'clock. I think I'll stop there. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to say. Okay. If not, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Grantraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupāda ki jai.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, thank you so much, Mataji. Nice class.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Jai Bhagavan Vishnu.